All right. We are live. All right, guys. Hey, it is Gabrielle back here with
Allison.
Yay, we are back. If you have been following us before, every Monday afternoon, you can catch us talking about basics of home buying, everything from costs to myths to mortgage talk, all your favorite things, every Monday afternoon. So far, we've covered quite a few things the past couple weeks. We covered myths of mortgages, all the things that we all thought were true but are not. We covered just basic mortgages for you guys, just to give y'all insight on the options that are out there. And then today we are covering something that I'm super excited to discuss. We are covering the actual costs of home buying. I know a lot of people get very long descriptions of estimated costs, but here we are giving you, an example of exactly how much it should in theory cost to get a home, all the little costs associated with it. So here we are. So the first one we are going to talk about, and I'll let Allison take the lead for this topic, is down payment. Allison, down payment. So what should we normally expect with the down payment for a home?
So it all depends on one person's kind of financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take a consultancy approach when it comes to mortgages and look at what down payment scenario best complements a potential buyer's long and short-term kind of financial goals. But obviously a really, really popular one, especially for first-time home buyers, is going to be either the conventional 3% down or the FHA 3.5% down. So obviously on a $200,000 price point for a conventional 3% down, we're looking at $6,000. For an FHA 3.5% down, we are looking at $7,000. Conventional has to come out of your pocket. If you're doing that route, you cannot get a gift for those down payment funds. But if you're going FHA and have a family member that really, really loves you and has lots of dollar bills to give to you, not cash, I feel like I should note that.
Yes, always.
Funds. Then your entire down payment can also be gifted. So we see that a lot with parents gifting their kids down payments. So that is an option and good to kind of know ahead of time. But yeah, it just varies. Obviously, if you're doing more down, you're looking at a higher down payment, whether that's 10, 15, 20% down. And the thing is, even if you aren't looking at a particular percentage to put down, even if you just have $50,000 to put down on a house, we can look at that exact amount. The ratios that we look at, the kind of percentages, is always for the place that we start, but we have flexibility. If you want to put down $37,259, like, we can do that too.
Awesome. So perfect. So down payment, I just want to break it down to very simple terms just to get an idea. So like you mentioned, $200,000 home, 3% if you're doing FHA, for example, first time home buyer. So that's $6,000. So right now we're at $6,000 that we know you for sure need to get a home. The second part, after you've been searching for a home or looking or browsing, when you make an offer, is the earnest money. So what is the earnest money? So the earnest money is basically when you make an offer for a home, it is your basically collateral. So usually it will be 1% of the home value. So let's say you're approved for exactly $200K, the home you want, you're making an offer for exactly $200K. So that would be, the 1%. So that would be $2,000. So a lot of people get confused when I say this because they're thinking, oh, that's an additional $2,000. I have to put down so much more. We could be talking, $5,000, $10,000 more for a home. But in this case, that earnest money that you give up once the offer is accepted and received and we're moving forward is directly applied to your other costs. So the original down payment or the closing costs, that is included for later. So you're not losing an additional $2,000, $4,000, $5,000. It is being contributed to the cost that you're getting in the home. So I always like to disclose that because a lot of people think that it is a separate charge, when in fact it's just, putting the money up front to show the seriousness of you as a buyer. The third part, and Allison can touch base with this as well, is the option period. So you did the earnest money. your option period starts. What is that? That's the 5 to 10, even 15 days, depending on the situation, period after your offer is accepted. Both parties have agreed, they signed. You have X amount of time to back out or negotiate anything between that period. So what are the costs for the option period? Is that extra? Yes, it is. So during the option period on the contract that you submit and that you'll get back as counteroffer, we'll have a cost per day. Usually, depending on the price of the home, it can be anywhere between $15 a day, $20 a day. I've even seen, depending on the cost of the home, $50 a day. So usually you pay up front with the check, let's say $15 for 7 days. That would be around $105. So that is a separate cost that is associated with buying that a lot of people don't know. That 105 as well is given back to you after that period. But it is kind of also like your collateral showing that, you get leverage during that specific period to get your inspection done, appraisal done, all little things, little negotiations before y'all really start getting in the process of the loan origination. Did you have anything, Allison, in regards to option period? I mean, did that kind of cover it, or?
You're solid. And that is exactly what we see on a pretty typical basis.
Awesome. Sounds good. And like I said, that's normal. You can't really negotiate outside of the option period. You can agree to not do it if you really wanted to. But as a realtor, as a professional, we always suggest that you pay that extra $100 for the convenience and the security to back out if something was not, was not what you hoped for in that home that you're looking to buy. So part of that option period is also the inspection. Inspection will usually be around $500 or less. That is a full home inspection. They check everything from the paint, the ceilings, the cracks, the outdoor foundation, AC, everything you can think of. They check that as well. And that is usually always covered by the buyer. Everything is negotiable, but because you're buying it as a buyer, that inspection copy is yours for future reference. And that's for negotiation, whether you need repairs done, or even if you wanted to negotiate the price due to something that may have not worked out or that was not seen, by our human eye, not a trained professional. Appraisal after that as well is also usually always covered by the buyer because those reports, that information, that data is yours, the buyer. So that one is usually, I want to say, around $500 as well. It is paid by you, and the lender specifically picks out the appraiser for you. So with inspectors, you pick out on your own. You can Google them, you can use a referral, you can use someone I recommend to you, but the appraiser is always picked by the lenders, and they're chosen by random. There's a whole system to make sure it's fair and neutral and not biased. And you purchase that as well, and that's around $500. Yep. And then my favorite part, and Allison can take it from here, is after all of that is done and we're getting close to the end and it's closing day, funding day, the closing costs. So what is that big amount that people are always concerned about, Allison?
So, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing that most buyers get kind of lost on is down payment is separate from closing costs. Those kind of fees combined together is what you ultimately bring into close on your home. Let's say for a $200,000 price point, and because that's just average for first-time home buyers in Houston, we're looking anywhere from $5,000 to maybe $6,000, depending on the loan type that you go with. You can, and Gabrielle can, as your realtor, negotiate or attempt to negotiate. The seller doesn't always have to honor this, but you can ask for closing costs to be offset. So on, let's say, the conventional 3% down, you can ask for essentially the entirety of your closing costs to be covered by the seller, because you can ask for up to 3% on a sales price for closing costs from a seller. And it doesn't always happen, but you can ideally get a decent chunk kind of covered by the seller. So that brings your entire closing funds needed down. And on an FHA, you can ask for up to 6% of the sales price and seller contribution. So that is a large chunk. I mean, that's 12 grand that you can be asking a seller to help with. And you don't need all 12 grand in most cases because closing costs are going to be roughly $5,000 to $6,000. So you can get likely all of them covered. So it's just comfort to know that like you don't always have to come out of that, but you also need to prepare for the instance that a seller doesn't honor that, because we're in a unique market in Houston in that we have low inventory. So we have multiple offer situations. So a seller may or may not be willing to or able to cover closing costs. So now we're looking at kind of a max around with title fees, closing costs, down payment, maybe $13,000 to $15,000 on a $200,000 price point is just a decent, I mean, overview. It depends obviously on taxes and loan type and a bunch of other things, homeowners insurance, just a bunch of different factors, but that's a really good kind of baseline for you to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that is probably the best one because like I said, a lot of people come to me, they're like, I know what I need to do for down payment, but closing costs, I hear it's always different. It's always changing. And in this case, you know, for the most part, it's not. Like you said, you know, 12, 14, 15, 16,000. I mean, that's could be any estimate. You know, I've seen both. There's just different variables. But yay, thanks so much, Allison. I hope we answered y'all's questions in regards to, you know, how much in general should I be expecting when I purchase my first or repetitive home. If you have any questions, feel free to message me here on Facebook. Feel free to reach out to Allison as well. As mentioned, we are here every Monday. So we will be here Monday afternoon, basically until the end of time.
Not getting rid of us.
No getting rid of us. Corona can't stop us. All right, guys, thanks so much. I'll be here. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments. All right. Bye, y'all.